There are moments in life when the air itself feels different. You can't quite explain it, but something in your spirit knows, this is not a normal season. Capricorn, you've felt it, haven't you? The shift. The pull. The invisible weight of something monumental, just beyond the veil of what you can see. This is not about a promotion. Not about a raise. Not even about getting rich. No. This is about history itself calling your name. About a wealth so sacred, it doesn't just change your life, it redefines your legacy. And yet, not everyone is chosen for this kind of mission. Not everyone is meant to carry this weight, this assignment. Because it's not light. And it's not fast. It takes more than desire. It takes readiness. So I need to ask you something, and I need you to answer it honestly. Are you ready for the mission? Because this wealth, it's not coming to flatter your ego. It's coming to test your heart. It's coming to lift generations, not just pay your bills. It's coming to transform betrayal into bridges, and silence into strategy. But here's the secret no one wants to admit. The universe doesn't release this kind of abundance until the soul holding it is finally steady enough to carry it. This is why you've waited so long. This is why doors that opened for others seemed to close in your face. This is why you've cried in silence, built in the shadows, carried more than your fair share, all while wondering, when is it finally my turn? Well, Capricorn, this isn't just your turn. This is your calling. And the mission begins now. Because the kind of wealth coming to you, it will write your name into the pages of time. But only if you're truly ready. So stay with me until the very end of this video. What I'm about to tell you isn't just important. It's the blueprint for why you were delayed. It's the revelation of what's finally about to be released. And it's the warning that if you miss this, you may never step into it again. Let's begin. Part 1, the season of silence. There was a time when everything in your life slowed down. The world moved fast around you, your friends were getting married, launching careers, building homes, celebrating wins. And you stood still. Capricorn, there was a season where the silence around you was so loud, it made you question everything, your worth, your decisions, your dreams. You wondered why it was taking you so long to arrive. Why doors seemed to open for others, while you faced locked gates and long roads. You told yourself, maybe I'm not trying hard enough. Maybe I missed something. Maybe I'm not meant for more. But here's the truth. That season of stillness was not punishment. It was preparation. You were hidden, not forgotten. Capricorn, the universe does not waste time, and it certainly does not waste souls like yours. If life felt paused, it's because something greater was being built beneath the surface. Think about it. When a skyscraper is constructed, the first thing that happens is not upward. It's downward. The deeper the foundation, the higher the structure can rise. And you, Capricorn, you're not some cheap roadside motel. You're a legacy tower. Your destiny needed a foundation deep enough to hold the kind of wealth that reshapes entire bloodlines. That's why you were pulled back when others were pushed forward. That's why you were told no when others heard yes. You weren't behind. You were being rooted. The loneliness was strategic. Remember those nights? When the people you loved most didn't show up. When friends ghosted you during your hardest hours. When even God felt silent. Those nights weren't empty. They were divine classrooms. The silence you endured, it was where your discernment sharpened, where your intuition matured, where your strength was forged in the unseen. Capricorn, if people left you in that season, it's because they were never meant to witness the construction. The foundation wasn't for them. It was for you, and for the generations that will one day stand on your shoulders. Why it had to happen this way? You might still ask. Couldn't there have been another way? A faster way? Maybe. But not for you. Because you weren't born for quick money or temporary praise. You were born to carry something sacred, a mission that would last beyond your lifetime. And missions like this, they don't begin with applause. They begin in the dark. In the shadows, in the season of silence. Because the quiet season is where power is born. Life lesson from part 1. Not all growth is visible. The most powerful transformations happen underground, when no one is watching, when no one is clapping. When it's just you, and the blueprint of something bigger than you. So if you're still in that quiet season, Capricorn, honor it. Because once the structure rises, once the wealth comes in, once the world starts looking at you, you'll miss the sacred silence that taught you how to hear your own soul again. Part 2: Wealth with a Voice. Capricorn, not all wealth is created equal. Some wealth fades as quickly as it arrives. It buys noise, not legacy. Comfort, but not meaning. But the wealth coming to you, it carries a voice. A voice that will speak long after your hands have passed it on. A voice that will echo through the walls you build, the lives you touch, the opportunities you create. This is not about stacking zeros in a bank account. It's about building something that will outlive you. Because money, by itself, is silent. But wealth with purpose, that speaks. And it speaks powerfully. You were not meant to just consume. You were never meant to just receive wealth so you could sit in comfort. The wealth that's coming to you is arriving with intention. It is not neutral. It has a direction, a frequency, a destiny. And if your hands are not ready to hold it with wisdom, that wealth will either slip through your fingers or crush you under its weight. But Capricorn, the silence you endured, the foundation you've built, the depth of self-awareness you carry has prepared you. Not just to receive wealth, but to activate it. You will use it to open doors for others, to fund visions, to shift generational narratives, to make sure no child in your bloodline ever again has to wonder, will I have enough? This is not just about you. Capricorn, this is where the truth gets even more intense. The wealth on its way to you was never just about your joy. It was about justice. Because some of the blessings you're about to receive are connected to the tears your ancestors cried, to the battles your parents lost, to the dreams your grandparents didn't have the resources to pursue. Now it's your turn, and heaven is watching to see what you do with it. Will you hide it, hoard it, waste it, or will you activate it? Will you turn your pain into purpose? Will you make sure your last name becomes a bridge, not a burden, for the ones coming after you? The power of money depends on who holds it. In the wrong hands, money destroys. In the right hands, it redeems. And Capricorn, your hands have been tested. Through betrayal. Through poverty. Through years when all you had was faith. That's why the universe is preparing you now. Because you are not just someone who wants wealth. You are someone who will know what to do with it. This is wealth that doesn't just feed your body. It feeds your soul. It doesn't just change your life. It changes your legacy. And you will not just rise. You will raise others. Life lesson from part 2. True wealth is not measured by how much you have. It's measured by how many lives are better because you had it. Capricorn, the wealth coming to you is already speaking. The question is, will you be the voice that carries it forward, or the silence that lets it die? The choice is yours. And the time to prepare is now. Part 3. You were chosen to break the cycle. Capricorn, let's be honest. There are patterns in your family. Struggles that repeat. Stories that feel too familiar. Poverty. Silence. Self-sacrifice. Dreams deferred for the sake of survival. You've seen it. You've lived it. You've carried it. And yet, there is a reason it bothers you more than it did them. Because you were not born to repeat it. You were born to break it. The cycle was never yours to keep. 4 generations, the people before you endured what they had to. They made do. They got by. They believed that suffering was part of the deal. But you came with different wiring. You ask different questions. You feel the weight of what others ignore. You notice the emotional wounds buried beneath the surface, and they don't sit right with you. Because deep inside, you know this truth. Just because something has always been this way, doesn't mean it must stay that way. And that knowing, that resistance to what others accepted, it's the sign, the confirmation, that you are the one chosen to end the cycle. It didn't start with you, but it will end with you. Capricorn, you didn't create the financial struggle. You didn't choose the emotional burden. You didn't ask for the scarcity mindset, the fear of abundance, the constant pressure to prove your worth. But you inherited it. And whether you asked for it or not, the mission is now in your hands. That's why your path has been harder. Why your shoulders have had to carry more. Why your prayers have often sounded like cries for breath. Because the weight of the past is real. And heaven knew it would take someone like you to stop it. Not someone soft. Not someone careless. Someone strategic. Someone grounded. Someone who could carry pressure without breaking and turn it into power. That's you. You're not being rewarded, you're being entrusted. Capricorn, understand this. The wealth that's coming isn't a trophy. It's a torch. It's not a celebration. It's a commission. You're being trusted to build what no one else had the tools, the strength, or the clarity to build. And yes, the path is harder. Because the outcome is greater. You're not just saving yourself. You're rewriting the blueprint for everyone who comes after you. That's why you've felt resistance at every level, emotionally, financially, spiritually. Because you're trying to build in one generation what others failed to touch in 10. But the universe is with you. And the resources are coming. Because destiny knows. It takes a Capricorn to finish what others were too tired, too scared, or too wounded to begin. Life lesson from part 3. You didn't come to repeat stories. You came to rewrite them. Capricorn, you are not the result of your family's trauma. You are the remedy. And when the wealth arrives, don't just spend it. Transform it. Use it to close the chapter that's been open for far too long. This is not just your breakthrough. It is their redemption. And it starts with you. Part 4, Betrayals Before the Breakthrough. Capricorn, there's a silent pain you've carried. Not because you wanted to, but because you had to. The kind of pain that doesn't scream, it simmers. Quietly, invisibly, until one day you look around and realize the people you trusted the most are no longer standing beside you. They vanished when your world got heavy. They doubted you when you needed faith. They whispered about your journey, not because they understood it, but because they couldn't walk it. Let's say it plainly. You've been betrayed. And not by enemies. By friends. By family. By people you once defended. But what if that was part of the plan? As painful as it sounds, betrayal isn't always an attack. Sometimes, it's a revelation. A holy separation. A divine act of subtraction before multiplication. Capricorn, the universe saw what you couldn't. It heard the conversations that never reached your ears. It felt the envy behind the smiles. And before your blessing could come, heaven stepped in and started cutting the ties you were too loyal to release. The betrayal wasn't to destroy you. It was to clear the space. You couldn't take them with you. Not everyone who starts with you is meant to finish with you. Not everyone who claps when you're quiet will celebrate you when you rise. Some people were only loyal to your struggle, not your success. They felt more powerful when you were small. More necessary when you were dependent. More secure when you were broken. But the moment you started healing, growing, moving forward, the mask slipped. And the betrayal? It stung. Because you never thought they'd be the one. But in truth, that wound was the universe's protection. Had they stayed, they would have sabotaged what you're building. Had you trusted them with your next level, they would have poisoned it before it ever grew. The break had to happen before the breakthrough. Capricorn, there is no breakthrough without a breaking. Before you rise, something must be severed. A tie, a pattern, a belief, a person. And for you, it was the illusion that everyone who loved you would stay. But love isn't proven by proximity. It's proven by presence when things get uncomfortable. And when they left, it revealed something. They weren't tied to your soul. They were tied to your season. And that season is over. Life lesson from part 4. Not all losses are losses. Some are removals disguised as betrayal to prepare you for elevation. Capricorn, before heaven sends wealth, it sends clarity. So mourn who you must. But don't reach backward. Don't chase what has already chosen to exit. The space they left behind, that's exactly where the blessing is going to land. And this time, it will stay. Part 5, when everything shifts. Capricorn, There comes a moment when the atmosphere around you becomes undeniable. You wake up one day and realize something is different. The same road you've walked for years suddenly feels unfamiliar. The weight you used to carry begins to lift. The resistance that held you back loosens its grip. And deep within you, a quiet voice whispers, "This is it. The shift has begun." But here's the thing, shifts rarely come with announcements. They don't knock on your door and ask for permission. They move in silence, like an invisible wave, rearranging everything inside and out. And if you're not grounded in awareness, you'll miss it. The moment you've been waiting for never feels like it. You imagined your breakthrough would come with flashing lights, celebration, recognition, cheers. But in truth, Capricorn, most real breakthroughs arrive like a sunrise, soft, steady, undeniable. Not loud, but permanent. Suddenly, ideas begin to flow again. Opportunities return your calls. Strangers show up and speak things you've never shared aloud. The delays begin to make sense. The silence becomes sacred. It's not magic. It's not coincidence. It's alignment. And it's been a long time coming. Life doesn't always tell you the shift is here, but it shows you. You'll know the shift has arrived when the things that once drained you no longer reach you. When people who once had power over your emotions lose their grip. When money starts flowing in directions it never did before, not because you changed who you are, but because you finally became who you were always meant to be. You'll see signs in the small things. The way you say no without guilt. The way you protect your time like gold. The way you no longer explain yourself to people who stopped listening long ago. These are not small victories. These are the tremors of a transformation that has been in motion for years. The world may not see it yet, but you will feel it first. Capricorn, before the world celebrates your change, you will sense it internally. And here's what no one tells you. The shift may be quiet, but it will require a loud decision. Because once it begins, you can't go back. You'll have to walk away from roles that once defined you. From relationships that once anchored you. From places that once felt safe, but are now too small for the person you're becoming. Because the moment everything shifts, is also the moment you're called to move differently. This is your invitation to become unrecognizable, not to the world, but to the past version of you who accepted crumbs while dreaming of feasts. Life lesson from part 5. The biggest shifts in life don't always feel like victory. Sometimes they feel like discomfort. Like confusion. Like walking into the unknown with nothing but your faith. But that's the proof that it's real. Capricorn, when everything shifts, the ground beneath you won't feel familiar. But don't mistake unfamiliar for unsafe. You're not lost. You're being led. And the road ahead, it's paved with answers to prayers you stopped praying years ago. The shift is here. Now the question is, will you follow it? Part 6, the blueprint behind the delay. Capricorn, let's speak a truth no one ever had the courage to say to you. You were never being ignored. You were being architected. And every delay you mistook as rejection. Every moment you thought heaven had gone silent. Every opportunity that passed you by while others succeeded. It wasn't abandonment. It was alignment. You see, timing is not just about waiting. It's about what's being arranged behind the veil, the blueprint you cannot see, drawn by a hand greater than yours. And when the structure is sacred, the plan must be precise. Delay is not denial, it's design. Capricorn, your destiny is not random. You are not meant for rushed victories or shallow success. And that's why everything you've prayed for took longer. Because it had to match the weight of your purpose. This blueprint had to account for more than you could imagine. The lessons you still needed to learn. The people who needed to exit before your rise. The strength your character needed to develop. The faith you didn't yet know how to hold. The storm you had to survive to recognize peace. Had your blessing come earlier, it would have collapsed under the pressure. Because your foundation would not have been ready to hold it. Heaven was calculating what you couldn't understand. Capricorn, your journey has been frustrating because your mind was designed for strategy. You need answers. You crave structure. You want timelines. But the divine works differently. Where you saw stagnation, the universe saw sacred coordination. While you were pacing, destiny was preparing. People, places, contracts, mentors, protection, all being lined up, like chess pieces on a board you didn't even know you were playing. And when it all finally comes together, you'll look back and realize the delay wasn't a mistake. It was the blueprint at work. You weren't waiting, you were becoming. There's one more truth, Capricorn. You weren't waiting on the blessing. The blessing was waiting on you. Waiting for your courage to catch up. Waiting for your heart to stop giving to those who drained it. Waiting for your mind to stop lowering itself for people who never deserved access. Because heaven will never release a harvest into hands that aren't ready to plant it again. The delay wasn't the blessing being withheld, it was you being fortified. Life lesson from part 6. Delay is not life punishing you. It's destiny protecting its architecture. Capricorn, you carry a mission too big for shortcuts. So when the doors didn't open, when the email never came, when the offer went to someone else, it wasn't because you weren't enough. It was because the plan was still unfolding. And now, it's almost complete. Soon, the blueprint will become the building. And every delay will become part of your proof. Part 7, Sacred Wealth Requires Sacred Wisdom. Capricorn, it's time to tell the truth. Not everyone who becomes wealthy stays wealthy. Not everyone who receives abundance knows how to carry it. Because wealth doesn't just reveal your bank account, it reveals your heart. This is why the universe held it back. This is why heaven waited. Because this wealth is sacred, and sacred things can only be entrusted to those who will honor them, not exploit them. You were never meant to just have money. You were meant to move it with wisdom. Wealth is not a trophy, it's a test. There are two kinds of people who receive abundance. Those who are consumed by it, and those who become conduits for it. The first build empires for ego. The second build legacies for others. Capricorn, the wealth that's coming to you has a voice, but only wisdom will teach you when to let it speak, and when to let it grow in silence. You must know when to invest, and when to wait. Who to trust, and who to walk away from. Where to plant, and where to preserve. When to build, and when to rest. Without wisdom, even the greatest fortune becomes fleeting. But with wisdom, you won't just touch wealth. You'll master it. The delay was a training ground for discernment. Capricorn, remember all those setbacks. They weren't just delays. They were your curriculum. They taught you how to recognize manipulation, set boundaries, value loyalty over flattery, say no without guilt, build quietly while others chased applause. These aren't random traits. They are survival tools for the wealthy. Because with wealth comes visibility, and with visibility comes vultures. But now you know better. You've been tested in fire. You've walked through betrayal. You've lost what you thought you couldn't live without, and still, you kept building. This is why you're ready. Because the wealth coming to you isn't fragile. And neither are you. Heaven didn't want you to be rich. Heaven wanted you to be wise. Anyone can become rich. But very few know how to hold wealth without being corrupted by it. Capricorn, you've always carried a sense of responsibility. Even as a child, you thought like someone much older. You were serious, strategic, aware. Now you know why. You weren't being burdened. You were being prepared. This isn't about greed. This isn't about luxury. This is about destiny. This is about systems. This is about rising above what broke your family and replacing it with something indestructible. And for that, you needed more than money. You needed wisdom. Life lesson from part 7. Wealth can buy comfort, but only wisdom builds kingdoms. Capricorn, the blessing that's coming is sacred, and sacred wealth demands sacred stewardship. So when the doors open, don't ask, what can I take from this? Ask instead, what am I now responsible for? Because that question, asked in private, will protect you in public. And it's the reason the wealth will not crush you. It will crown you. Part 8, the arrival of divine partnerships. Capricorn, let's be honest. You've carried a lot alone. You've been the planner, the builder, the healer, the decision maker. Even when your own world was falling apart, you still showed up for others. You still kept the vision alive. But deep down, you wondered if anyone would ever carry you the way you've carried them. If anyone would ever say, "I see what you're building and I'm all in." Well, Capricorn, that moment is closer than you think. Because in this new season, you will not walk alone. Destiny is sending people. Not just friends. Not just fans. But divine partners, the kind you've prayed for in silence. You were never meant to build the empire alone. Even kings need counselors. Even visionaries need ground crews. Even sacred missions require sacred support. Capricorn, your independence is your strength, but it was never meant to be your prison. You were self-reliant because you had to be. But now, you're entering a season where you get to choose differently. And the universe is responding. It is aligning souls with yours, people who don't just admire your light, but protect it. People who don't just understand the dream, but carry the blueprint in their own bones. What do divine partnerships look like? They will come quietly, unexpectedly, but they will feel like recognition, not introduction. You'll know them not by how loud they are, but by the peace they bring. They won't compete with your strength. They will complement it. They won't drain your energy. They will amplify it. They won't question the size of your vision. They'll see it and raise it. Some will come as collaborators, some as investors, some as mentors, supporters, or quiet forces behind the scenes. And some will come as love. But all of them will feel like confirmation. You're attracting them because you're ready. Capricorn, you're not attracting help because you're weak. You're attracting it because your capacity has expanded. What you're building is now too big for one set of hands. And heaven knows that. That's why reinforcements are being released. These people will not arrive by coincidence. They are being assigned. And they'll carry the character to match your courage, the skill to match your vision, the loyalty to match your silence. They won't be intimidated by your greatness, they'll be ignited by it. Because finally, you're entering a room where your fire doesn't scare anyone. It inspires them. Life lesson from part 8. You weren't always alone because people didn't want to help. You were alone because the wrong people couldn't carry what was sacred. But now that your foundation is ready, the right ones are coming. Capricorn, divine missions attract divine alliances. And when they show up, you won't have to shrink to be accepted. You'll stand fully in your power and they'll rise with you. Not as your audience, but as your army. Part 9, your legacy begins now. Capricorn, let's pause for a moment and breathe. Because everything we've spoken about so far has been leading here. Not to a paycheck, not to applause, but to legacy. This is the part most people never reach, not because they can't, but because they stop at comfort. They settle for success that ends with them, instead of building something that begins with them. But not you. Because Capricorn, you weren't born to collect rewards. You were born to create ripple effects. And now, the ripples begin. You will be remembered for what you build, not just what you earn. The money that's coming to you isn't just income. It's infrastructure. It's schools built in your name. Foundations funded by your courage. Doors opened for people you'll never meet simply because you said yes to something greater than yourself. You're no longer working for survival. You're building for succession. And the truth is, most of what you're about to create, you won't even live to see the full fruit of. But that's what makes it sacred. You're planting trees whose shade will fall on generations. You will become the turning point in your family line. Capricorn, look at your story. Look at the pain, the struggle, the silence, the prayers no one heard but you. Now realize this. You are the one your bloodline has been waiting for. You are the interruption to the patterns that tried to pass themselves on as destiny. The wealth that's coming to you is not just for a better life. It's for a new legacy. One where abundance is normal, love is safe, self-worth is non-negotiable, healing is generational, purpose is inherited. Your children, whether of blood or spirit, will not have to start where you started. because you built a staircase for them with your pain, your patience, your perseverance. You're not leaving the world rich, you're leaving it better. Capricorn, you will be remembered. Not for how much you had, but for how deeply you gave. Not for your possessions, but for your impact. Not for your name, but for the doors your name unlocked. And the beauty of it all? It started quietly, in a season where no one noticed. When you were healing, hoping, praying in silence. Now, the silence ends and the story begins. Life lesson from part 9. Success is what the world sees. Legacy is what the world feels long after you're gone. Capricorn, your legacy doesn't begin at death. It begins the moment you decide to build beyond yourself. And that moment is now. This isn't just your rise. It's the start of a movement. And your name will forever be tied to its foundation. Part 10, Conclusion. The sacred mission has begun. Capricorn, if you've made it this far, you already know. This was never just about money. Never just about success. Never just about winning in the eyes of others. It was always about one thing. Becoming the one who changed everything. You see, most people are born into a story, but only a few are called to rewrite it. And that's who you are. You didn't ask for the pressure. You didn't choose the weight. But you were born with a spirit that could carry what others collapsed under. You endured without applause. You built without validation. You grew in silence while others shined with shortcuts. And now, the silence has served its purpose. Because what comes next is not chaos. Not confusion. But clarity. The kind of clarity that only comes after pain has purified the path. This is not the end. It's the emergence. Capricorn, you are not stepping into wealth. You are stepping into assignment. Every dollar, every door, every opportunity coming your way is an echo of what you've already survived. Now, it's time to use it. Not to prove anything, but to build everything. The business that employs those once overlooked. The shelter that houses those once forgotten. The family line that finally breathes peace instead of panic. The story that someone else will hear and say, because they did it, so can I. This is what real wealth looks like. And this is what you were born for. The final truth. Capricorn, the delay was never denial. The silence was never punishment. The loneliness was never abandonment. It was all a process. A plan. A preparation. And now, the doors will open. The shift will come. And when it does, you won't just rise. You will lift everyone connected to your name. Not because you wanted to be seen, but because heaven trusted you to carry something sacred. Life lesson from part 10. The most powerful wealth is not what you keep. It's what you set in motion. And you, Capricorn, are a force of legacy, healing, and generational impact. This is your time. The sacred mission has begun. Call to action. If this message spoke to your soul, write this in the comments right now. My wealth will shape history, and I am ready for the mission. Let heaven hear you. Let the universe align with you. Let your own heart finally believe it. And make sure to subscribe to Zodiac Secrets Revealed, because this is not the end. It's only the beginning. The blueprint was written in the stars. Now it's time to build it on Earth.